Well, welcome back to The Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. Find us online at themouseandmen.com, where you can find our top 10 things for grown-ups to do at Walt Disney World. And while you're there, click the links to visit our social media profiles. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, where we broadcast the podcast. I'm Bradley. I'm here with my co-caster, Chris. Chris, I mean, we're inching towards June, which means that it's the end of the school year. Some schools are out, some schools are finishing up, but that means it's summer travel season.
Yeah, my kids are actually finishing up their school year this week, so they are pumped. Now, it will be several more weeks before we actually get in the vehicle and all head down to Orlando for our summer vacation. But they're so excited to be done with school. And I'm excited because it's like we talked about last episode, it is nice to be able to plan and get excited for traveling again, because my family, we love to travel. And then last year, nothing happened. So the fact that we're talking about traveling last episode with kids and toddlers, and this episode with older kids and teenagers, it's just so exciting because it means that we're getting out and about in the world again. So I can't wait to dive into today's topic.
Yeah, part one was last week. Now we've grown up a lot in the 7 days since then. It's time for part two. So let's get to traveling to Disney World with teenagers. Chris, I've got no experience traveling with teenagers of my own. I've been several times as a teenager.
Yeah.
But I'll let you kick us off with some tips for parents traveling with teenagers down to WDW.
Yeah, see, I think that you and I have some unique experiences that allows us to speak to both taking younger kids and then taking older kids and teenagers, because okay, sure, maybe you have one that's under 2 right now, but you yourself, I know that you've traveled to Disney several times as a teenager in different aspects, whether it was going down there for baseball tournaments or whatever, or just family vacations. I didn't do a lot of traveling to Disney specifically when I was a teenager. We went to Universal a time or two. My family growing up were big cruise people. So we would go on a cruise every year, every couple of years, or try to go visit a national park or go to Canada or to do something like that. And so we didn't do a lot of Disney when I was a teenager, but now that I have teenagers of my own, I feel like that I'm now uniquely qualified to talk about it. And last episode, we talked about traveling with younger kids. I have done that, and now I'm kind of moving out of that phase, but you're right in the middle of it. So I think that you and I both have some unique perspectives when it comes to traveling with kids of all ages.
Yeah. And I mean, I have worked with teenage, middle school and high school youth groups. So I know what kids are like. We've been to Six Flags with those groups. I mean, what an adventure trying to keep up with 50, 60, 100 kids in Six Flags, Kentucky Kingdom, or Six Flags over Georgia. Not sure I'd wish that on my worst enemy. So Chris, what's your first tip for traveling with teenagers?
You know, it's interesting that when my kids were little, they just were excited about going on a vacation. Now that my kids are getting a little bit older, and again, I have a 15 and a 13-year-old, they want a bit of skin in the game. They want to help out with planning now. You know, and so for years and years, my wife and I would get together and like, what do you want to do this year? Do you want to go back to Disney? You want to go do something else? You just want to go visit family or something like that? But now the kids are very verbal about what they want to do. And so my first tip is to allow them into the process. You know, again, if you travel a lot, if you vacation a lot with kids, and now you're moving into teenage world, it may not be something that you're used to, of letting them have some input on what you want to do. Or if everybody is in agreement of going down to Disney, and that's what you're going to do as a family vacation, maybe like let the kids, or sometimes I have a difficult time calling them kids. So I'll just try to say teenagers. Let the teenagers join in on the process. Like, where are you going to eat? What days are you going to what parks? What rides do you really want to make sure that as a group that you all are participating in. So they want a little bit of that, sometimes autonomy, sometimes they just want to feel like that they are part of the process. So tip one is let them have some say.
Yeah, I love it, especially with the app nowadays. The My Disney Experience app, they can link them all together because let's be honest, every teenager has at least one cell phone, if not 3 or 4, or devices. So they've got the app. Kind of piggybacking off that, my YouTube or my Zoom background on YouTube is the Disney, the Play Disney Parks app, and I tried it a couple years ago. Make sure you've got backup batteries and chargers and stuff because it will it does get addicting, but you get to play games while you're standing in the queues, and just kind of helps you gamify waiting for an
That's
hour and a
great.
half, 2 hours for Flight of Passage, or Galaxy's Edge or any of that. So yeah, let them in, and then just figure out ways to use that app to its full extent, with things like the Play Disney Parks.
That's a great decision. That's something that I haven't even really considered. So I'm absolutely going to take advantage of that this year. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. It leads into my next tip, which is, again, my family, I feel like we're pretty privileged that we all have our own devices. And so it's like now when we travel down to Disney, it's a little bit easier because we don't have to pack up all of the different, like what we were talking about last episode with the toiletry bags or not toiletry bags, but like the diaper bags and all of them and all the different types of medications and stuff like that. It's a little easier now that we don't even need to have screens installed like we did a decade ago when we would take the kids down there, because they have their screen right in front of them. So it's a little easier to entertain yourselves when you are traveling down. But to also utilize that it doesn't have to be a constant, like, okay, now that we're all as a family, we're going to have to all just like have conversations and stuff. It's okay to stand in line and to all of us look at our phones, or, maybe one of us is planning what we're going to do next. Maybe somebody else is talking to their friend on TikTok. Maybe somebody else is just like playing the Disney Parks Play app there. And so just have a little patience. But also as a dad, I feel like that one of my roles, all of the times that we have been traveling as a family, it's just been, I'm kind of the pack mule when it comes to it comes to summer vacations. I've always got a backpack. And when our kids were younger, it's where we had the diaper cream and the diapers and all of that stuff and the waters and the snacks and everything. And now that my kids are a little older, I want to give them a bit more responsibility. So they are helping us with the planning. But if you're going to bring it in the parks, keep it on your person. And so one of my jobs now as dad is to not be the guy that hauls around the bag. And again, this is a personal preference. If that's part of the trip experience that you love as a father or as a mom or whatever, then do it. By no means am I saying you have to do these things, but I'm giving my kids a little bit more responsibility. So if you want to bring your phone, cool. You're just going to have to keep up with it. I'm not going to have every one of my cargo short pockets filled up with the stuff like I used to, including the backpack, because I want to now travel a little leaner. And so it's encouraging them to pack light, pack lean, pack in a minimalist way, pack for an opportunity and a trip that all of the, like, I try to pack trips to think that nothing is going to go wrong. And that doesn't always happen, but like, if I pack as minimally as possible, but then I get to my destination, then I realize that I need a thing of Band-Aids, or I need a new toothpaste, or I need to buy a new shirt, then I'm okay in those areas because I like to pack as light as possible. And now trying to, pass that on to my teenagers, I'm trying to encourage them to just take more responsibility. So for what it's worth, take responsibility, or like give them age appropriate ways to take more responsibility now that we're all traveling as older kids and teenagers.
I agree. And I like that comment about cargo shorts. Cargo shorts had to have been designed by a dad taking his children on summer vacation, just carrying everything. I love it. Chris, what's next on your list after making sure everybody carries their own weight around, carries their load?
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. The next tip is so for me, my teenagers over the last several months, they've been used to sitting in school all day. And then they come home and we try to give them some free time to go play with friends or to decompress in whatever way that they want to. But especially if you're going to go on vacation soon after school lets out, I know that for my teenagers, they're not ready to go stand in the hot sun for 8-12 hours a day, because that's just not been their experience being in school.
Yeah.
And so it's looking at the calendar, seeing when we're going to travel, and then us as parents to try to put some responsibility on the kids to like acclimate them for the experience that maybe they're not necessarily thinking of. They don't have fully developed brains, and that's just part of the process of dealing with teenagers. And that's okay. And so part of my job as a parent is to just like help them get ready for what they're going to experience. So sometimes that means like, hey, I know that you love staying up late and then waking up late in the summertime, and I want you to have those teenage experiences. But there's going to be a couple of things as we're all together on this family trip that we want to wake up and be at the parks when the rope drops. And so we're not going to be able to stay up until 2 a.m. if we're going to have to wake up at 5:30 or 6 to all get ready and to get breakfast and then to be there for rope drop. And so acclimating your teenager to the experiences that they may not be accustomed to is, I think, a good tip for any of us to do. And for us as adults to also remember that we're going to be down there, and we go from, even if you don't exercise in a day, you may walk, just doing your normal walking around somewhere between 1 and 3 miles, just walking around the house or going to work and back, that kind of thing. But when you go down to Disney, it's not uncommon to walk 10 miles in a day. And so to prepare all of our bodies, whether it's the adults or the teenagers or the younger kids, of the heat, the humidity, the need for hydration all throughout the day, the walk, and the more exercise that we're going to be doing. So just acclimating all of our bodies to the rigors that we're going to experience, even something that is fun as vacation, it takes a lot out of you.
I feel you. I go on about an hour walk with my son pushing that stroller, and I come back. It's about just over 3 miles. And I come back and I'm exhausted. So it's like, okay, well, there's, just waking up to getting to the park, maybe getting to my first snack at Walt Disney World. So I got a lot of day ahead of me. That's great. Also keeping in mind that Walt Disney World is in Eastern time zone. So if you're in any of the other time zones, you're going to be having to adjust to an earlier clock.
That's true.
If you're going to Disneyland, you're having to adjust to a later clock. So dinner time is probably about the time that you'd be going to bed in Eastern time zone. You just have to think about those things. Love it, Chris. What's next on your list?
Well, I really wanted to just talk about the idea of having teenagers and especially traveling with them. We just, for us, we are not constantly on the road like maybe some like the hashtag van life kind of families are on Instagram or YouTube, when they all are just in a tiny home or they're in a portable RV or something like that, moving around the country. So it's just, we have to prepare well in advance, but then also to remember that just like when they were younger kids, like teenagers are going to get grumpy. Teenagers, they need space more than they ever have. They're challenging their own worldviews. They're challenging their routines and their boundaries and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes as the kids get older, it becomes a bit more strained traveling with families because they want to be with their buddies. They don't want to be with their boring parents. They don't want to, those kinds of things. And so having some grace for the process or the stage that your teenager is in, I think is just a good tip, because it's going to make it easier when we're all getting along on vacation. Sometimes, especially in a family of 4 like I have, we don't all get along. And, one person maybe they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and that has the opportunity of possibly ruining a whole day or ruining everybody's moods, or all of us are arguing. And so it's just, when we're on vacation, try to just, to quote me when I was, my inspiration when I was a teenager, Bart Simpson, take a chill pill, man. Like sometimes you just need to just relax a little bit more and give everybody, whether it's the adults or the young kids or the teenagers or wherever you find your stage of life, just to give each other a bit more grace and space. I know that for us, that even though that our kids act like they're adults now, sometimes in the back of my head, I have to treat them like, well, just like when you were a toddler, like, you need to get some water in you, dude. You're like, I think that part of this grumpiness is the fact that you didn't get any sleep. Part of it is that you need to get some nutrition in you, or to get some water in you, or something like that. But then also, to, like, in that grace, that they are experiencing things and they want to, like, spread their wings a little bit more. And so for us, one of the things that we're going to try to do this summer for the first time is to let them, in a way that we are creating an environment of safety within the parks, that we're going to let them go and do on their own and enjoy the parks on their own for a little bit. And it's, for a parent in 2021 with kids that have their own devices, it's a little bit easier, because at any moment I can do a Find My search and see where the kids are, or I can call them, or I can communicate with them a lot easier than it was for our parents to just let us go through the parks and hope that they make it back to this one spot at the exact time, kind of thing. And again, going back to those youth trips that we used to be a part of and then chaperone for, that was a lot of fun too, to hope that everybody was going to make it back when they were supposed to. But it's a little easier now. And so we're going to take some risks and let our kids go do their own thing and, have the run of the park a little bit. And that's a parental decision too, because not everybody is ready for their teenagers to go do those things, or may not have the time or the energy, kind of thing. So for what it's worth, give yourself some grace, give your teenagers some grace, and to try to be flexible on these trips, to let them do their thing. And then also when the stuff hits the fan, that's part of the process when you're all together as a family. So the sooner that you can get past it and just let it flow away from you, the better.
Well, I love it. What a great way to kind of sum up both episodes of traveling with kids. And I got to say, one thing that I loved about not having cell phones growing up, before cell phones were as common, is you couldn't get yelled at for being late until you got there. Now, where are you? You're in so much trouble. It's like I hadn't even gotten there yet, and I'm already in trouble, or I'm already getting yelled at. But I love it. Chris, thank you for sharing your insight and some of the planning that you're putting into traveling with your teenagers this summer.
And I love that this is actually two separate episodes, because two separate worlds, traveling with young kids and then traveling with older kids and teenagers. Those are two separate vacations by far.
Absolutely. So, Chris, thank you for sharing your insight. And now I want to get to this week's plussing segment.
Plussing.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing the same shirt that I did last week. And what is it? It's Mickey Mouse and the Tennessee Titans.
I love
that. Fanatics is selling these shirts. Disney licensed Mickey Mouse. The NFL licensed their team names and colors to, I believe the company is Junk Food is the name of the t-shirt company. And they're selling these shirts for all the NFL teams. I need a little more Titans gear. I could always use a little more Disney gear. So I've got Mickey Mouse in a Titans helmet, kind of striking well, first I thought it was the Heisman. Now I realize he's dropping back to pass.
He's breaking. Yeah.
But love it. It's really soft.
Nice.
So go check out Fanatics. I think it's just a limited time deal. Hopefully they're still for sale when this episode goes live. Otherwise, I just lucked out. But really,
cool shirt.
Really excited about this. So, don't forget to visit us online at themouseandmen.com. Grab that PDF of the top 10 things for grown-ups to do in Walt Disney World. Be sure to find our social media profiles, all linked there on our website. Follow us, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel where we broadcast the podcast. You get to see my lovely Zoom backgrounds every week.
I do love them.
And let us know what some of your tips are for traveling to Disney World with teenagers or with toddlers, teenagers and toddlers, that's what this series should have been called. Maybe it'll be a recurring series. I don't
like
know.
it.
But let us know some of your tips and tricks there on social media. I've loved getting to think about, okay, how do we plan with kids? Because my next trip will be the first trip that I go with my own child. So I got to start thinking about these things.
Yeah.
So Chris, thank you for your insight. Always leaning on your wisdom for things like that. So thank you very much. But even as we're now parents, you don't want to grow up too fast.
And if your kids are growing up too fast in your eyes, you still got to keep exploring.